like to comment on one of the most incredible discoveries in the field of cancer, and that is a substance that has been very thoroughly researched over the last 50 years, and that is curcumin, which is derived from turmeric, the herb that is used in Indian kitchens or throughout many places in the world where curry is used in the food. And curry basically derives its yellow color from turmeric, which is the root that is sort of an orange-yellow root, which is very contains a very powerful active ingredient, curcumin. And this curcumin has been researched very thoroughly with regard to cancer and many inflammatory conditions like rheumatoid arthritis. And it is turning out to be far superior in not just preventing cancer, but also having curative properties. And the cumin, the active ingredient in turmeric, having an ability to actually change the environment of the tumor or cancer cells to a point that cancer cells either die or simply become inactive, and it prevents the generation of blood vessels that support tumor cells. So it is now believed, particularly by such fantastic cancer research centers as the Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center, which published a groundbreaking scientific review of their favorite anti-cancer nutrient, curcumin, and they, and I quote here, say that curcumin is one of the most powerful and promising chemopreventive and anti-cancer agents. How curcumin exerts its powerful anti-cancer activities has been thoroughly investigated, and several mechanisms of action have been discovered. Curcumin exerts its biological activities through epigenetic modulation. Now, what does that mean? Epigenetics is a wing of genetic research science that is looking at what influences gene behavior. And it is found that genes themselves don't undergo genetic mutation without an external reason. That means something in the environment, something that is external to the gene, is creating a modulated or changed gene behavior. Now, this is very important because for many years we have been told that genes just change. They may just develop a faulty mechanism and then they create diseases. But as we are learning now from genetic research, the most advanced genetic research, is that epigenetics, that means the environment influencing the gene behavior, is far more crucial than finding out what the genetic faults there may be, because the genetic behavior can be modified again and again and again. Genes that have mutated into cancer-promoting genes can be remodified, can be changed again simply by changing and altering the environment and the effect that the environment has on these genes. In other words, if we have a way to control the surrounding of the gene, then the blueprint, the genetic blueprint, will be changed again. So there are every gene has many thousands of different possible gene expressions that can come about simply by altering the gene environment. So what does the environment include? Well, it is what we eat, how clean our blood is, how well our liver functions, that cleans up the blood, the amount of bile we produce in the liver to allow us to digest our food effectively. So the better the liver works, the better the better and cleaner an environment we have, which in turn affects or influences the genetic blueprint of a cell. So that is one thing. Then there are toxins that sometimes cannot be cleaned up by the liver. If they enter the cell environment, then that affects gene behavior. That's again epigenetics. The cell environment is modifying the genetic blueprint. Then there are thoughts, feelings, and emotions, which have now been proven very, very strongly to have very powerful effects on our gene behavior. There are many scientific studies that show directly, very clearly, how the thoughts and feelings and emotions translate into changed gene behavior. So if, for example, we are angry about something, then that will immediately impact the functions of the genes, how well they produce certain proteins, and what they do in order to create a very healthy output of these proteins that are necessary for normal cell and organ functions. The other thing that influences genes are obviously what we drink and what we eat. There are certain foods that are very powerful cell have very powerful influences on cell behavior and on gene behavior, such as cruciferous vegetables, which are now known to have great anti-cancer properties. But it's not against the cancer. It is basically removing the need for cancer. In my book, Cancer is Not a Disease, It's a Survival Mechanism, I clearly describe the mechanism, how we influence the environment of the cell, which in turn then has to modify its genes in order to accommodate these changed environments. And so when a person is undergoing cancer or developing cancer cell, it doesn't necessarily mean that he will ever develop cancer. In fact, new research shows that so many people have groups of cancer cells in the body, and they will never ever develop into what is known as the disease cancer. So it depends on how we control. We don't have to control the cancer. How we support the cells in the body, how well they are oxygenated. We now know that oxygen-deprived cells can develop into cancer cells simply as a matter of survival. They want to survive. They want to continue serving some functions in the body. And if they are oxygen deprived, if they are congested, if the environment is clogged up with waste matter, then obviously they cannot breathe oxygen very well. And therefore there is a requirement to produce new blood vessels that supply new oxygen or oxygen to those cells. And however, that also delivers more glucose to the cells, and so cancer cells may proliferate when these extra cells are created. Now with turmeric and curcumin, it is found that the herb itself, or the active ingredient curcumin itself, can discourage the formation of new blood vessels, which means that existing cancer cells can never ever proliferate or spread or grow into solid tumors. So curcumin is definitely a great way to prevent cancer, and if it is there to help reverse it, simply by denaturing and decomposing or breaking down existing blood vessels, that nurture tumor cells. There is a simple recipe that has been known to allow the sort of a high absorption of curcumin to enter the cells of cancer cells. That is to boil curcumin, a tablespoon, in water for 5 or 10 minutes, and then drink the solution of that. That will help to increase the absorption of curcumin into the cells of the body. So there is a lot of information. You can find that on the internet. Just search for research turmeric curcumin. You'll find a lot of answers. Of course, I've also discussed it in my book, Cancer is Not a Disease. Quite a long time before anyone was really talking about it. I've eaten turmeric for about 40 years. I add it to my food, at least half a tablespoon in my food every single day. It's just part of my diet. It's added to vegetables and grain foods like rice. So I suggest you do that. It's a great preventive. It is now indicated in preventing or helping with hundreds of different kinds of ailments. So it's definitely something you would want to add to your diet. Thank you.